Hello, and welcome to A Fan Reads The Star Wars Vault. In this episode,
and they used to be called the Funny Papers. Roy Thomas was one of the comic book industry's icons in the 1970s. A longtime comics fan turned writer, editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics for a couple of years, and a guy with his finger on the pulse of pop culture, he first heard of Star Wars at a dinner in 1975 with George Lucas and Ed Summer, a business partner with Lucas in Super Snipe comic book Euphorium and Art Gallery, one of the first shops of its kind in the US. I loved American Graffiti, and Ed told me that George really liked my work, so I was happy to be invited, Thomas recalled. George talked about the Star Wars movie for about 10 minutes during dinner, but I must say I didn't remember much. About a year later, Summer went over to Thomas's apartment with Lucasfilm's Lippincott. Lucas was already in Tunisia filming the Tatooine scenes. The men wanted to convince Thomas that Marvel should do an adaptation of the movie and that he should script it. I told him they needed to go see Stan Lee, then Marvel publisher, but they told me they had and turned it down, so I was second choice, Thomas laughed. The problem was that neither science fiction comic books nor movie adaptations really sold well. In fact, a previous Marvel publisher had canceled a comics line because one cover had the three things he hated most: rockets, robots, and ray guns. But Lippincott persevered, starting to spin the story and showing Thomas some of Ralph McQuarrie's magnificent paintings. It sounded kind of interesting, Thomas recalled, but frankly, my eyes started glazing over. All those weird names like R2 and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was very confusing. But then Lippincott held up a McQuarrie concept painting of the cantina with Han Solo pulling a gun on an alien bounty hunter. Wait a second, now I get it, Thomas exclaimed. It's like a western, but in space, a space opera. Okay, it sounds like a lot of fun. Lippincott wanted Lucas' favorite Howard Chaykin involved as the artist, and Thomas managed to convince Lee to let him do a 6-issue series that would run about 100 pages. The head of circulation was really against the project, Thomas said. He tried to get me to do it in 1 or 2 issues, but I refused. And just about the time that the first issue was going on sale in March 1977, I ran into him and he said, "You know, we're really going to take a bath on that book." In fact, the sales were much better than a usual first issue, and by the time the movie opened, Marvel knew that it had a phenomenon on its hands. It became one of its most successful titles of the era, running to 107 issues before it finally petered out in 1986. In the early 1990s, independent Dark Horse Comics started a new round of Star Wars comics and published the immensely popular Dark Empire series, which recounted the events that took place after Return of the Jedi, with Luke Skywalker seeming to go over to the dark side. Since then, Dark Horse has published dozens of Star Wars series and hundreds of individual comics and graphic novels. The quality of art and storytelling is so strong that Lucas even used a female Jedi created by artist Jan Duursema in episodes 2 and 3. Aside from comic books, Star Wars was adapted into a daily and Sunday comic strip in 1979, using artists such as the well-known Al Williamson to tell an expanded story in 3 or 4 panels a day. But within a couple of years, one of the nation's largest newspapers, the Los Angeles Times, felt the strip wasn't popular enough and decided to drop it, even though it was distributed by the LA Times Syndicate. The official Star Wars fan club drummed up a large letter-writing campaign, and the Times reversed field. The strip lasted another 3 years before suffering the same fate as most other daily continuity strips.
That's it for now. Thank you for watching A Fan Reads The Star Wars Vault.